What's up? It's Jan, back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. I'm standing today because we like to switch it up around here. Also, I'm very sniffly and I need to be able to run to get tissues if I have to sneeze. Today we're doing my October wrap up, and I read 11 books. It feels weird standing. I'm able to like move around, it's weird. Anyways, TBR, my god, I keep saying TBR. I just watched like 3 TBR videos. First book, Educated by Tara Westover. Gave this one 5 stars. I tabbed the shit out of it. I tabbed the shit out of all these books that I tabbed. I loved it. This is a memoir about her childhood growing up. Her family's Mormon. They live in like the mountains in the middle of nowhere, and they're like super anti-government, like we don't want you in the system type of thing. So Tara and her however many siblings, I forget how many she had a bunch. Some of them like didn't have any school at all. Some of them had only a couple of years of school. They were all like homeschooled. I say homeschooled because they basically taught themselves because her parents were pretty shitty throughout her childhood, and even as she grew older, they were very unsupportive of her wanting to go to a good college and just everything. Like they didn't even let their kids go to the hospital when they were injured. Her dad made them work with him at the junkyard, and there were all these like huge power tools that like injured at least one of his kids like once a week almost, or whatever. Like every chapter someone was almost dying, and it was wild. It was just super survivalist mode the entire time. She never learned how to be like a normal kid. Like she never washed her hands after going to the bathroom, so like in college she got made fun of. But basically she ends up getting like all these degrees. She like gets her PhD even. She was a phenomenal writer, and like, her teachers and like mentors recognized that, so they like helped her get through her educational years and everything. So it's a super success story, but holy shit did she go through hell and back to get there. It's one of the best memoirs I've ever read. That's all I gotta say. Next book I read was an audiobook through Libby, and it was Well Read Black Girl by Glory. I forgot her last name, I'm sorry, it'll be on the screen. So Well Read Black Girl is an organization that the author started. Basically focuses around promoting literacy and like, supporting black women. Like I don't know the nitty-gritty details, but like the book, it was an anthology of all these different authors talking about black authors who inspired them. Like there was a lot of mention of Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, Zora Neale Hurston. Great writers. I've read pieces by all of them and I loved them all. Yeah, it was a super quick audiobook about why these authors inspired them and just how literature in general has impacted these authors' lives. I don't know if that made any sense. I rated it 4 stars. It would have been 5 probably if I read it physically, because I listened to it too fast. I feel like I listened to it while I was running, and I don't know, I feel like I didn't give it the attention it deserves, so that's on me. I am willing to read it physically if I get my hands on it at any point, but yes, that's that. Next book, The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. Okay, so despite all the tabs, I wasn't a huge fan of this book. I gave this one 3 stars, but it was still really good. The writing was really good. N.K. Jemisin is known for her like blunt, crass, like straightforward, honest, super bold writing. There was a lot of swearing in this book. It's very abstract writing in my opinion. But yeah, this book is about the 5 boroughs of New York personified. So there are 5 main characters and they essentially embody the boroughs. So the first character you meet is Manny, who represents Manhattan. Not represents, he is Manhattan. So like he can control certain bodies of water and like bridges and stuff. And when the city hurts, like he hurts. And then there's this like enemy that has a bunch of tentacles. 5 boroughs just like find each other once they figure out what the hell is going on, like why they're so affected by what's happening to the city. Once they figure all that out, they look for each other and then they try to defeat this enemy as a whole. This took me quite a long time to read. I just feel like it was very unnecessarily long. Each chapter was definitely unnecessarily long, but the book itself, like as a whole, I feel like it could have been cut down a little bit more. My friend Laura and I were reading the beginning of this together, and we both agreed that there were a lot of conversations that were just like unnecessary, like they added nothing to the story. Some parts were funny, but like just the length of time and pages it took idea to complete the conversation just like was unnecessary. I don't know. It was really funny. I laughed out loud a lot of the time. I loved the characters. They had very distinct personalities, which was good. Next book I read in October was Mindhunter by John Douglas and Mark Olshaker. First of all, the floppiness of this paperback is just unreal. That was half of the enjoyment. So, John Douglas and Mark Olshaker are profilers for serial killers. They're basically special agents, and they go to crime scenes and look at victimology, look through all the photos and everything of the victims, look at all the evidence at crime scenes, the blood splatters that could lead to information on what kind of weapon was used, scuff marks in the dirt around the crime scene. All of this like leads to such specific, like unbelievably specific details that lead the FBI and all that basically to solve the case and identify who the serial killers are. It's crazy. I loved learning about the behind the scenes of what goes into the process of catching these serial killers. This book specifically is such a good balance between the stories of the serial killers and their crimes and stuff, and then the factual stuff that goes into reading into the cases and everything, and John Douglas's like methods of identifying the serial killers and solving the crime. It was so good. My boyfriend's mom lent me this book, and I thought it would take me a lot longer to get through because of how dense I thought it was gonna. How dense it is, but it flew by. I was just so captivated. I don't think I was ever bored throughout reading this book, and it was like over 400 pages. This and The Killer Across the Table are what got me into true crime. I'm hooked. Like, I have joined the bandwagon, not the bandwagon, the club. I've joined the club of people who love true crime because of John Douglas's writing. And it's his writing in particular because I also read Michelle McNamara's I'll Be Gone in the Dark. I just finished it. I just prefer John Douglas's writing. I kept thinking about Mindhunter while reading that book. I think about Mindhunter when I read other thrillers now. So yeah, I can't go on about this book because I can't stop talking about it. So next book, here we go. We have a whole reading vlog on this book. It's my new favorite book of all time. It has taken me years to find a book that tops Looking for Alaska in my all-time favorite books list, but this one did it, guys. This one did it. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Sure you've heard about this one a countless number of times, but basically a girl named Addie LaRue makes a deal with the devil because she accidentally prayed at night to live a more full life, basically. So the deal was she lives forever so she can like fulfill that dream of, you know, getting things done that she wants to get done. But the catch is that no one will remember her like immediately. So she meets someone, and as soon as they turn the corner, they won't remember who she is. So it's just such beautiful writing. I don't know how to talk about it anymore because I've talked about it so much, but also like not enough, you know what I mean? But yeah, and then she meets this guy who does remember her, and it's a story of their romance that comes about because they need each other and they are able to give each other what they need, and then you find out why that is. The execution of the dual timelines was done so well. I can't believe I never read anything by V.E. Schwab. I'm reading one of her middle grades right now, and I don't hate middle grade. I just like, I'm not a fan of it. I don't get captivated by middle grade, but I'm reading City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab right now. I just want to read anything and everything she writes after this. I tabbed the shit out of it. I bought metallic tabs just for this book. I was so happy when it popped up on my book of the month options. I was so fucking happy, you have no idea. I'm obsessed. I'm gonna reread this probably once a year. I can't not. Like, it's amazing. First on my list of all-time favorite books. I can't believe it. It has been Looking for Alaska for years, and then finally, here we are. Okay. On the flip side, A Deadly Education. We fucking hate this book. I gave it 1 star. No, I didn't. I gave it 2 stars because, one, the cover is beautiful, and I mean, she tried, okay? Naomi Novik tried. The characters were just so irritating, and the story was just not what I expected. It was one of my most anticipated books this fall. It came out, I think, end of September. I have a whole rant about it too in, I think, 2 vlogs now. Okay, so the premise is that it's a magic school for adults, and if you fail, you die. Okay, that's all I needed to know. The cover is beautiful, has moons, it has a book. That's my aesthetic, okay? I was just like sold. Like, I will get this book. Bought it full price. Big regret. Biggest disappointment of 2020. I'm so sad. I was so upset. I was the only reason it's not 1 star is because it did make me laugh a couple times, but literally like 2-3 3 times. Like when I say a couple, I mean like 2 to 3 times. Obviously didn't even bother tabbing it because like, I did not care. Main character Elle, I don't even know how to say her full first name. I don't even care. She just tries so hard to be funny. Like there's just unnecessary swearing in her sentences that makes her sound like she's trying too hard. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't even know if I know what I mean. I just know that I hated this book. I wanted to DNF it so bad, but I paid full price for it, so I pushed through. But let me tell you, those were the longest less than 300 pages of my life. Even my boyfriend, he was so annoyed by me reading this and seeing it for like days at a time, because I usually, you know, I go through books like every other day, but this one I was reading over a week. So we're done. I'm just keeping it for decor at this point, as I mentioned in my last vlog. The next book was a library book, so I don't have it with me, but it was The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. This book is about this group of siblings who go to a psychic, a seer, if you will, and she tells them when they're supposed to die. Some of them believe it, some of them pretend they don't believe it, but they actually do in the back of their minds. But anyway, they all execute their lives differently, and each part of the book was for each sibling. At first I was like, eh, and then they, like 2 siblings went to San Francisco and were basically free reign, and they just like lived their best lives, and then so that was cool. And then it has a lot of discussions about being gay in that era, because it's set in like the 60s, 70s, maybe 80s. I never really checked. I said the same thing on my vlog when I read that book, and I never double checked on that. Yeah, it discusses that, discusses like AIDS, it discusses identity. There was this one sibling who was a magician or whatever, so there was a lot of like pressures in that realm. And there's like this huge plot twist at the end for this one sibling who had the longest life of them all. So she, you know, was just chilling. She was throwing herself into work, and then plot twist, and it was a good time. I gave that one 4 stars. The Immortalist was a wild ride. I wouldn't reread it, but I'm glad I got it from the library and didn't purchase it, because it's not like, I don't know, maybe I just took too long to read it or something. But after the Immortalist, I finished Buy Yourself the Fucking Lilies by Tara Schuster. I always got Tara Schuster and Tara Westover mixed up, but I read this on ebook through Libby. This was a nonfiction about self-love, the author's journey towards self-love and getting the life that she made for herself that she felt like she deserved, because she had a super shitty childhood. Her mom was super unsupportive. Her dad, childhood just sucked, okay? And she was just not happy, and she like vowed to herself that she's gonna get to where she wants to be. So she talks about all her like hardships and then what she did to get out of toxic situations and everything. It was hilarious. Okay, that sounded bad, but like the way she told her story and the way she gave advice, it was just all hilarious. I mean, it wasn't preachy at all, in my opinion. I think it was a good balance between the memoir part and the advice part. I loved the parts where she talks about the guys she dated, because she had the worst luck. So yeah, if you ever feel bad about your choices in significant others of your past, just read this book and you'll feel better, I promise. Yeah, it went by super quickly. I would recommend it. She talks about journaling a lot, which I already do. She has this thing that she calls the morning pages, where she wakes up and immediately just word vomits 3 pages in writing, and it just helps her like clear her mind. And I want to try that, but I'd rather read in the morning when I first get out of bed. I don't really feel like writing. Oh my god, my nose is starting to burn. That's why my eye is like tearing up. If I start crying, mind your business. Next book I read was The Devouring Gray by Christine Lynn Herman, I think is her name. I could never remember authors with, I can barely remember authors, but like especially authors with more than like just a first name and a last name. Devouring Gray. So I just picked this up kind of on a whim at the library. It's been on my TBR for a while, like my big TBR. It wasn't really high priority or anything, but I finally picked it up and it was really good. I mean, it was very YA. It was very YA, but I like the concept. So the gray is like this thing that basically like overtakes the town if it's not properly protected. It's hard to explain. It was kind of nice going more blindly into the book, so I won't go too much into it, but it's about this group of friends. They're more acquaintances. They don't really like each other, which adds a lot to the story. There's this new girl in town named Violet. Harper lost her left hand when she was captured by the Gray when she was doing her test for her powers, because everyone has powers in this book. Justin, who is part of one of the, what's it called? I think it was called the Founder Families. He didn't have powers because he like failed his test or something. And then there was another girl. Was it another girl or was it another guy? I don't know. But then there was also this other guy named Isaac who was basically Justin's sidekick the whole time, but also a twist. And then like it was basically all these kids discovering themselves and their powers, and it had a lot of good statements about life and learning, coming of age. It was good. It was good. I would recommend it. It was super quick to read. Yeah, it definitely caught my attention and kept my attention throughout the entire book, especially once I sat down and read like the last 100 pages or whatever. That was a good time. I was hooked. I was screaming. I was gasping. It was great. Oh, I'm almost done. I have 2 more books left. Next book was Coraline, the graphic novel by Neil Gaiman. I've never read Coraline before. I think I watched the movie once, but I wasn't really into it because I don't like that style of animation personally, but I'm willing to watch it again because I didn't really pay attention the first time because I don't recall anything from that movie, especially in relation to the book. I loved this book. I gave it 4 stars. It was a lot creepier than I thought. Like, look at this. Like, that's creepy. I read this super late at night too, so I was just like, am I gonna have nightmares? She discovers this door at this new house that she's moved into. Her parents are very, not neglecting, but they just don't pay much attention to her. She's just always bored, and she's an only child, so she has no one to like play with, and she's super into like exploring and discovering new things. She's super curious, and she walks into this door and there's a cat involved. It's a fun story, and it has a good message to it about like family, being satisfied with what you have, be careful what you wish for type thing. Yeah, so that's a good one. And then lastly, we got a thick boy, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is the exclusive book of the month hardcover edition. Look at all these tabs. I was surprised by how quickly I got through this book, especially because of how long the chapters are, like unbelievably long. Like this thick ass 559 page book has 8 chapters. 8 chapters. So some of these chapters were like over 100 pages long. I shit you not. I was like, how am I ever gonna get through this book? But holy shit, I loved it. I mean, I read it for the late night book club pick for October, and I watched the live show, and they weren't as into it as I was at all. Like 2 of the 3 of them gave it a 2-star and a 3-star, and I was like, what? I gave it a 5-star rating. I absolutely loved it. I don't know, it was dark. The setting was great. The characters were so flawed in so many ways. There was nothing going on at some points, but also so much was going on. So this guy, Richard, he's our narrator throughout the entire book. He goes to this school, I think in Vermont, but it's called Hampton, and he wants to get into this Greek class with this teacher named Julian, but he's like super selective with the students. Like literally this Greek class only has 5 students in it. Like those 5 students, all their classes have to be with Julian. So he was like, okay, I mean, I love learning the Greek language and everything, but like this whole situation just intrigues me even more, and I'm gonna get into this class. So he gets himself into this class, talks to the gang of 5 sketchy ass students. I just can't stop thinking of Dead Poet Society. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but I've only seen like half of it. But there's Henry, there's Francis, there's Richard, there's Charles and Camilla, who are twins, and then there's Bunny. Right from the get-go, literally like first couple pages, you know that Bunny dies, and you know that Richard has something to do with his death. From then on, I was hooked. I was like, okay, how did he die? Why is Richard involved? He doesn't even know this kid yet. So Bunny, a lot of people hate him, but like I thought he was so funny. He's the reason I started doing the silver tabs. I was gonna do all purple, but I did silver for the funny parts because I was like, Bunny is just on a roll. The humor in here, some of it is so dark and some of it is just so sarcastic and so intelligent sometimes. Don't get me wrong, a lot of this information, like when they start talking about historical facts, like went over my head. I felt like a student again reading this book. I'm so glad I read this book. I understand now why people always put this on their autumn TBR. I understand. It was such a great way to end October. Also, the font of this edition is just part of why it was so good to read. I don't know, it just made me feel smarter finishing this book. That is all I have to say. Why do I talk so freaking much? So those are all the books I read in October. It was a pretty good reading month in my opinion. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you had a great day. Stay safe and stay positive always, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!